Fried chicken is inarguably delicious, but there are a few problems posed with frying chicken at home. You need a ton of oil to do it. It's hard to get a crispy exterior in perfectly cooked meat. Usually it's either undercooked or overcooked, and that's never good. And it can take so long that by the time you finish making your sides, it's gonna be soggy. Japanese fried chicken solves for all of these things. The pieces of chicken are small enough to cook within like 10 minutes or so. They stay crunchy for an insanely long amount of time, and it's pretty easy to nail the perfectly crunchy exterior and really juicy, well-cooked interior. Let me show you why karaage is pretty much the only chicken I fry at home. Me and you and Zaboomafoo. You guys like Zaboomafoo? The show was sick. We're gonna make the marinade that we need for the chicken itself, which is a really, really delicious combination of soy, sake, mirin, and sesame oil. A couple other things. Ginger, garlic, white pepper is really good in this. If you're not using white pepper in a lot of your Asian cooking, things like Japanese food, Chinese food has a lot of white pepper. It's actually kind of spicier than regular pepper. Like, let's do a little. It's like a sharper pepper flavor, which is really, really nice, especially in something that's gonna be fried, where you can lose some of the flavor of spices in fried food. So white pepper is really, really good for stuff like this. We're gonna put some salt in this marinade as well. Make it more like a seasoned brine situation. 1 tablespoon of soy. This is there for flavor, there to bring a lot of umami, there to make the whole thing delicious and well seasoned. Sake does a couple of different things. We're gonna let this marinate for like an hour, close to. So sake is gonna do a little bit of tendering. It's not long enough to really, really make the chicken like crazy soft tender, but it's gonna do a little bit. So half a tablespoon of sake. Chicken thigh, depending on where you get it, can sometimes have a lot of that like chicken smell and flavor. Sake actually removes a lot of that, leaving you with a really clean and fresh tasting chicken. Half a teaspoon of mirin. So mirin's actually pretty sweet in general. Whenever you have soy in Japanese cooking, mirin's probably right there with it. We're gonna do a half teaspoon of mirin. If you add too much of this, it's gonna turn out kind of sweet, and that's not usually what I aim for. And then lastly, half a teaspoon of sesame oil, which is, in my opinion, one of the most delicious things on the planet. Sesame oil is crazy fragrant. It runs through your nose into your mouth the entire time that you're eating, which is just like, beautiful. Soy's got salt, so we're not gonna like overdo it, but there's gonna be a lot of chicken in here, so I do want some salt. Salt makes everything else taste better, so you need to add it pretty much anytime. Even if you've got salty ingredients, you're gonna wanna add salt to your food. White pepper, I already explained why I like that. Just a little bit, not a crazy amount. I'm gonna give that a mix, and then we're gonna grate in a knob of ginger. As someone who has anxiety, I've eaten a lot of like ginger and ginger chews in my life. It helps with your stomach often. But ginger adds a citrusy flavor, almost like a lemon. It doesn't cook out. So if you cook with lemon or cook with any citrus, it's gonna get less pungent as you cook it. Ginger doesn't really do that. It stays pungent, it stays sharp. It cuts like right away. So I like a decent amount of ginger, probably about the same amount of ginger and garlic. I'll do 1 clove of garlic and a knob of ginger. It's really, really easy to just peel with a spoon. Like just take it in your hand and scrape it. And just peel, and then you'll be left with a nice, easy to use piece of ginger. There you go, knob of ginger, and we'll just grate that in. Microplane is like a new thing that I've gotten in the last couple months, and I use it a ton. Like, man, any kind of paste you wanna make with stuff like ginger or garlic, you can just run it through the microplane, and it is a whole lot easier than mincing it. Need a clove of garlic. I don't want it to be like crazy pungent garlic flavor. Okay, here's a little secret. I don't really measure and weigh everything when I'm cooking. Like if I'm making a dish, let's say I'm making this fried chicken at home, I'm teaching you how to make it. I don't want to give you everything in a way that you have to buy a pack of chicken and use like 4 out of 5 of the pieces. What's easily accessible at a grocery store is usually what I go off of, 4 ingredient amounts. Just makes it easy for both of us because I don't want to have to worry about that either. So I'm gonna grate in 1 clove of garlic as well. Like I said, not too much, not insane, just there to bring flavor. So here's that marinade up close. Not a ton, but it's gonna coat all of the chicken, and it's also going to be our dredge. So if we have too much of this, we're gonna have to drain it at the end. Chicken thigh, way, way better for something like this. It's classic for karaage. You get a lot more fat, you get a lot more flavor, the meat cooks juicier, it's harder to overcook. Everything with it is better. Here we go, we've got our pieces of thigh. I'm gonna clean up them a little bit. This is about a pound of thigh meat. You don't want much more than that, or you're gonna need more marinade. If you do, Go ahead and make more. Piece-wise, you want something that's pretty easy to eat. So I'm gonna take them in half down the middle, and then you've got these halves, and just take them to what is essentially chicken nugget size. Find where you want to take them and sort of make them a little bit smaller. If you've got like a slightly bigger piece, but you don't want to take it down, you can actually kind of score it, make it a little bit easier to cook. But again, the good news about thigh is it is so forgiving. Like, this is why I really, really prefer to cook with thigh meat, especially for applications like this. Marinade's done. For chicken, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Whoops, bigger bowl, just so I don't cross-contaminate my fridge. So marinade, chicken's in here. Give it a mixy mix. Wash your chickeny hands. You dirty little freak. Cover this. Whoop. Let it rest in the fridge for like an hour, 40 minutes, somewhere around there. Basically until you lose patience. Fridge, and we'll come back. So here's that marinated chicken. Looks beautiful, smells beautiful. That smell is the power of sesame oil. It just perfumes the whole thing with deliciousness. Sesame, ginger. Is there a little garlic in there? Maybe there is. Potato starch. What this does is actually gives you a little bit more crisp and a little bit more of that flake, less like hard crunch. Do you ever fry chicken at home? You actually know how hard it is to get like a light, delicate crunch. You almost have to use something like a self-rising flour or baking powder rather than just pure all-purpose flour, because it gives you too much crunch. It's like biting through Captain Crunch rather than something light and delicate like a Frosted Flake. This, in my opinion, more Frosted Flaky. I'm not even gonna measure it, literally just enough to get everything coated. So we'll coat it. If it's still kind of gooey, you got the goo, you don't want the goo. You gotta cover it. Crispy flakage, not gooiness. Frick. A good kind of indicator, if there's a little bit of extra starch left at the bottom, you'll be able to know that the chicken's grabbed enough of it. You're kind of just looking for perfect coverage on the chicken. This is really the only thing along with the cutting board that ever touches chicken, so you don't have to worry too much about like scrubbing everything. This is what it'll look like. You can see it's kind of craggly, lots of craggles, lots of coverage. The garlic and ginger are in there as well, so when you fry it, those are gonna coat. We're gonna let this sit like this, like so, while we bring our oil up to temp, and that's gonna actually hydrate that starch, make it stick to the chicken a little better. Frying time, daddy-o. Whenever I'm frying something, I like to have the ingredient itself, something to put the raw ingredient into the oil, a place to rest it after it's been cooked, and something to grab it after it's cooked. So I'm not using the same raw utensils. We're gonna be shallow frying this. These pieces are small enough to where we can cover them about halfway, and then we'll flip them halfway through the cook, and that saves us a ton of work and a ton of oil. Just enough to, like I said, coat the bottom. We're aiming for 325 or so on the first fry, basically just to cook the meat. And we're gonna cook it about 6 minutes. This came out of the fridge. The oil temperature is gonna drop. As long as your ingredient is sort of bubbling as it goes in, those bubbles are air and water being pushed out of the ingredient itself. A good way to think about it is the pressure of the water and air being expelled from the ingredient is actually too high for the pressure of the oil to get into the ingredient. So as long as your food is bubbling, it's gonna tend to not be as greasy. If your food stops bubbling when it's cooking, you are running the risk of getting super, super greasy fried food. Unwashed rice. If you think I measure my rice for how much I make, you are mistaken. I'll just wash this and put in about twice as much water. It doesn't have to be like perfectly measured. I will wash it until the rice runs clean though. Gonna do a little bit of salt in it. We're gonna let this ride. So I'm actually gonna drop them in now. Don't overcrowd. Just give each chicken the space that it needs to be lovely and crunchy. Half the chicken is in, and we'll do a 6-minute timer. Really what we're looking for here is cooking the meat and almost no color. At around the 3-minute mark, we'll flip them. I don't want them to, like I said, get a ton of color from touching the bottom. That's the one thing about shallow frying you need to think about. So you may wanna keep them moving more than you think you need to, just so the bottoms that are touching don't get overly dark. They are going to be so good over rice or, ooh, little secret, in a taco. We're gonna take this chicken, put it in the taco with some mayo, some sriracha, some cabbage, and eat a delicious, delicious Karaage taco. We're gonna come out onto the cooling rack. These are gonna cool as the other batch fries. Come back at the end, get them super crispy, extra dark. There's enough oil still in here to where I don't need to refill. And again, instead of having a pot of oil going for 25, 30 minutes for whole pieces of chicken, because honestly, that's how long it takes to cook dark meat chicken in a fryer. If you're not using like a pressurized fryer, like a fast food restaurant, you need at least 20 minutes to cook bone-in chicken. Right at about 6 minutes, we're gonna take them out. When we're ready to actually eat them, we'll crank this up to 375. While that's going on, I'm gonna prepare some other stuff. So I'm gonna do a rice bowl, things like rice, cabbage, mayo, maybe some sliced scallion, just kind of shred some cabbage. That is fine. That's what I want for both the taco and the bowl. When you fry things twice like this and let it cool, it just gives you a really, really nice final product. It's crispy, it'll be juicy. Now at this point, it's like 1 minute, maybe 2. Whatever it takes to get the chicken brown. That's all we want, dark brown. This is gonna go super, super perfectly over a bowl of rice. That's another thing that I like about this versus regular kind of American fried chicken. The sides for this are a lot less heavy. Stuff like cabbage, rice, versus, I mean, what? We got mashed potatoes, gravy. All those are really heavy and have a lot of dairy in them, which if you guys have been following me for a little while, you know my body dies if I eat dairy. Super rejects itself, and then I end up pooping my pants. And I don't like pooping my pants. Don't love it. Super pretty. Uh-oh. I am going to salt these as they come out. It seems a little bit excessive, but anything fried, it's always nice to hit it with some salt, just for that little punch, little seasoning. We already took care of the cooking, basically separate from the crunching. That's how you get beautiful chicken. So look at the color change. Like, this is way darker. This looks like my dog, legitimately. The other one, close. This one is like red golden retriever colored. This is why we keep a dry towel around. If only there was a video of some very pale YouTuber explaining why you need a towel, then you could probably like watch that here. All right, I just wanna show you how gorgeous this tray of chicken is. Here are those beautiful pieces after the second fry. Ooh, delicious, juicy. I'm gonna take a little big ol' steaming bowl of rice. Cabbage, undressed cabbage. Make it nice and generous. Beautiful little lemon. Kewpie mayo, super classic. Tons of that scallion right on top. You want a little dipping sauce, a little mayo, sriracha, salt. Just a splash. So mix. Just frying up a tortilla, and we'll top it with this little seasoned cabbage slaw. Just a little cabbage, a little mayo, a little vinegar, a little salt. So we've got the tortilla done, cabbage, and chicken, maybe one more. Touch of sriracha. Not sponsored. This is crazy good for like a bottled teriyaki. Bachans, if you're out there, hit me up, because I will shill for you all day long. Extra love. Little green onion down. Karaage taco, I would be super happy to get at like a little taco stand. There we go. I'm gonna just hit up the chicken spicy mayo right away. One of my key points in the beginning was regular fried chicken does not stay crunchy that long. I have been here for probably an hour and a half post frying, and this is still like crispy out the butt. It's perfectly seasoned from all the marinating that we did. It's tender because it's dark meat, and it is going to make you very, very happy. You dig in, you get rice, you get cabbage, you get the chicken. Bro, it's such a classic. Cabbage, crunchy, light, hot rice, beautiful, seasoned, crispy chicken that just like coats your mouth in that ginger, sesame, soy flavor. It is an outstanding way to eat it. Perfect, it's perfect. Let me show you this taco really quick. Just look at this beauty. Crispy chicken, mayo, sriracha, little cabbage, green onion, the one I am most excited about. Look, each of these are delicious. The chicken can stand on its own with a sauce in a bowl any day of the week. Add whatever you've got lying around. You've got like a perfect rice bowl. But what I'm reaching for again is the taco. It's crazy good. It's perfect. A thing of beauty. That's it. That's my... Thank you so much for watching. If you really, really enjoy what I'm doing here, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. More deliciousness directly to your subscription feed. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see me make. I'm going to start doing way more user requested content. So let me know what you'd like to see me cook and what you'd like to see my take on. Thank you to all the amazing people supporting me on Patreon. Really, really appreciate it. Check it out, patreon.com/CameronMarty. And I hope you guys have a good one. Cheers. Give me the rest of this.